today. I hope you enjoy it. It's the Personnel Committee. It's Thursday, the 26th of June, 2025. It's 10:30 a.m. And as usual, I like to go around the room and everybody announce who they are and in what capacity quite clearly. So I'm John Evans, Councillor for Ulverston, Chair of the Personnel Committee.
My name is Adele Ashmore. I'm the current acting head of HR, so you've seen me previously here at the committee in capacity as HR manager.
Hi, I'm Paulette Brown. I'm a lawyer in legal services. This will be my first time in the committee in a long time. Normally my colleague Paul McMahon is here.
Hello, Councillor Jonathan Smale, Deputy Leader of the Conservative Group, Swanley Ward Council.
Good morning, I'm Councillor Johnson, one of the councillors for Blakeney Ward. I have been on this committee before, but not for some time.
I'm Saki Bami, Councillor of Blakeney Ward, and I'm also the Vice Chair of this committee.
Councillor Sue Bonser, I'm Councillor for Abbey Ward.
I'm Jack Roberts, I'm the Democratic Services Officer for the committee.
And we've got one slightly late councillor arrived, which you can announce if you are.
Councillor Lakin, never been on this committee before. We really haven't got a clue what it's about. So.
We'll find out. Thank you. Right. I'm not aware of any late items, but if there's something, speak now, but it will be extremely late. No.
I just mentioned that we
apologies.
had apologies from Councillor Mulhall.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so no late items. Item 2. Item 3, are there any declarations of interest? No, there's none. Item 4, the minutes of the meeting, it's incorrect on the agenda, held on the 30th of January 2025. It does say the 21st of November, that's going to be amended. So those that were present, if they have any comments, or those that aren't then.
Thank you, Chair. On page 2, where I read them through last night, it states before the issues involved, the committee requested that information was provided at a future meeting about rates of agency spend. Can you tell me which future meeting that will be? Clearly it isn't today.
Well, yeah, because the remit of this committee is changing, it might have to be referred to one of the scrutiny committees. But we ought to make sure that it doesn't just get lost in the ether, so we don't lose it in the ether yet.
Precisely, yeah. It doesn't need to be lost. It's an important point.
It is. It is very.
As long as it's going to be taken up, bearing in mind our terms of reference to the next item.
Yes. Or we'll make sure we put reference to refer it to the correct scrutiny committee for that. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Bonser.
Would it be possible to ask for that information to be circulated to the Personnel Committee when it's available?
Why not? I'd be more than happy if we can do that within our remit.
This is also, the agency spend is also reported to CJC as well, as part of that process that we already have in place within the council. So we would be covering the cost of agency spend as part of the constitutional status there. So we can kind of look at that moving forward as to what's circulated, but it wouldn't ordinarily be this group that would receive that kind of information.
Yeah, can we just make sure that that information does go, like Councillor Bolton stated, to the correct scrutiny committee? Thank you. Councillor.
No, I was just going to ask that. In years gone by, when I was on the other side of the table, council did attend those meetings, but I don't know if they do now.
No, they don't. That's attended by the student directors, the chief exec chairs that meeting, and it's also attended by the trade unions.
So if the information is readily available and is reported to that meeting, it shouldn't take a huge amount of time.
It will be reported at the scrutiny as part of the scrutiny performance process. That information will go there in terms of the attendance and also the agency spenders in comparison with the attendance.
Thanks.
The other point to say is that the Personnel Committee can perhaps send a representative or attend a scrutiny meeting where these matters are being raised. So there's a bit of crossover between the personnel committee and as we'll talk about, the corporate services and cost of living scrutiny board. The idea then is that with the personnel committee having decision-making functions with respect to personnel matters, it may be useful for a committee member to go along to a scrutiny meeting to get that background, but it's allowing the right board in the right place to be able to cover those.
Councillor
I'm just
Bonson.
wondering if there's a way of alerting us to those items are on the agenda, because with the best will in the world, we have our own areas of responsibility in committees. We can't really be going through agendas of every committee to know what's coming up, and I wouldn't like to miss it. Yeah.
Perhaps we could, I wonder whether one way of doing this is to have a particular individual from the personnel committee, perhaps the chair or vice chair, who I then include in circulations for the corporate services and cost of living scrutiny board.
Yeah, it's an option. It's probably better is the vice chair and the vice, so that I would, so that we don't, if one's missed it for whatever reason, the other one doesn't. All right. Any other comments on the minutes from January the 30th? No? Okay, we'll take them as read with the comments that we spoke about. So we're on to item 5, the Personnel Committee Terms of Reference. Jack, I believe you want to speak first on this.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming along today for what is quite a short agenda, but what we wanted to make sure we did was any change to the kind of direction of the committee that we brought the committee along with us. So I guess the proposal is that the committee changes direction somewhat, that it returns to its decision-making functions, which is set out in its terms of reference. And in doing that, it moves away from some of the monitoring work which it's been doing in attendance management and the apprenticeship scheme. There's kind of 2 reasons for that. There's a specific reason, and then there's a general kind of wider reason. The specific reason is that constitutionally, in terms of how the delegation comes down from council, the remit of this committee is to look at specific decisions in terms of policy, but also there's a remit for considering certain restructures which are over the threshold of £100,000. And so on the other side of that, the kind of monitoring, the performance monitoring of human resources and organisational development sits under the council cabinet, and therefore, formally speaking, constitutionally, we would expect that to go to a scrutiny committee. Now, the wider reason I'd mention kind of comes back to good governance. I think it's useful to kind of look at council decision-making structures as an ecosystem, lots of different parts, different committees, all doing different things but coming together to fulfil the council's purposes. And a sign of a real healthy ecosystem in that respect is to have a clear division of labour between all of the different parts, and to avoid duplication, both to ensure that there's clarity of purpose, but also to make sure that there's not duplicated work on the part of officers and councillors. I think we talked a little bit in the minutes about making sure that there's still crossovers, that they're still kind of working together. But the proposal then would be that there would be likely a reduction in the number of meetings, but that as and when policies come forward, the Personnel Committee would come to the next available meeting, which has been put in the schedule of meetings, and as previously discussed, we the Personnel Committee refers the monitoring matters to the Scrutiny Board, the Corporate Services and Cost of Living Scrutiny Board, and that I include the Chair and Vice Chair in circulation for those boards going forward.
Adele?
I mean, I think this is a good way forward to kind of refocus where we are as part of the HR and OD service. We have been actively working on the apprenticeship scheme, which I hope you appreciate over the last few years. You can see the work we do, and also on attendance, we took a very detailed report there, looking at an overview of everything that's happened and comparing us with other unitary councils. And it means that at that forum we can have more of a detailed discussion, because in this forum here it's harder to pull out some of the detail. This is a publicly recorded meeting. We're talking about the council's absence figures. We can have that more open conversation as part of those other meetings.
Sure. Any comments from councillors at this stage? Okay, my comment is since I've been on this committee, we've always looked at these figures, and I took it as read really incorrectly that it was part of the committee's remit, and it did feel like it was very, very useful, and you could see the developments being made with the apprenticeship programme, and looking at the absence figures and drilling in, looking at where there's different aspects of that and where it got improved as well and fine-tuned. And in some respects, to lose that is just, I don't know, it seems quite sad, but I do understand, and we don't want duplication. And my concern is not to make sure that what this committee did do related to that does go to the two scrutiny committees, as you stated. And if Councillor Amin and myself are copied in on those, then and that's some reassurance, really. So, yeah. Councillor Bonser.
I share your sentiment, Councillor, in terms of the monitoring figures.
Yeah.
I've always found it very useful, and certainly in our work in exec scrutiny, I've been able to draw on that information, when
Yes.
we're looking at scrutinising other issues and the impact of absence and staff attendance and so on. My only concern, whilst I broadly support what's happening, my only concern is that the work of those committees, they've got limited time and resource. Are they actually going to look at and consider these? Are they going to have the capacity, and have they been consulted about this change?
Yeah, it's a valid concern. It could be that we review how it is in 12 months or something like that, and see what's happened, and we minute that and note it, so that we can look at our remit and potentially change it in the future. Councillor Bolton.
Yes, I broadly agree with what's outlined, but like Councillor Bonser, are we not now overloading the scrutiny commission? And they might not give the same weight to the detail as we perhaps have done it in this committee. I think it should be reviewed, because if the workload is too much, then clearly this isn't a good proposal, is it? But we won't know that until we've tried it.
Yeah.
The well-being of our staff and looking at attendance rates and apprenticeship, they're all meaty issues that we need to be involved and aware of. And I, like Councillor Bonser, are fearful that they won't give it their due attention because they've got other priorities.
Yeah.
That's my only concern at this time, and it
that-
may be that isn't relevant, but we need to be mindful of that, because they're all important issues that no longer are coming to this committee.
It'd be nice to think if it does take a wrong turn, like you're saying, Court, and I agree, then we can change the remit of this and bring it back. It'd be nice to think we could do that. Yeah, Jack.
Just on the technicalities of that, so the Personnel Committee receives its delegation from Council, and so it will be a decision for the full Council as to whether the Personnel Committee can change its terms of reference.
Oh, okay.
So that would be the first point.
Yeah.
The second point would be the Corporate Services and Cost of Living Board will be meeting in 2 or 3 weeks' time, and they're up the work programming stage. We have done we've had some renewed work in how we do our work programming, and we will be bringing information about the performance monitoring that goes through Council Cabinet and exec scrutiny to be able to kind of show what's the horizons at the moment, and so with a referral from the personnel committee, I think there is scope. The committee are really looking at the moment as to what they're going to focus on, and I think I would hope to give you some reassurance that this will be followed through at this stage. It's the right time to make the referral, I would say.
Okay, is it, Jack, then, that we're outside of our terms of reference for this committee? And we've been operating outside of that when we've been looking at these things.
Yeah.
So we've not had authority from the council, but we've been looking at all this information for a number of years, and it's been good. So it's not been a bad thing. But if we wanted to ratify it, it would have to go to the council and do it that way. I'm sure that could be arranged if we needed to do it. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to pursue that route if we thought we needed to. Yeah. Any other comments? Yeah. Because it's quite important, this, I will read the recommendations of 2.1, 2 and 3. And 2.1 is to note the committee's terms of reference, which is what we should be operating in. 2.2, to endorse the refreshed approach to the committee's work for the municipal year 25-26, receiving reports only where there are decisions to be made on matters within its remit. And 2.3, to refer oversight of absent management, colleague wellbeing and the council's apprenticeship scheme to the corporate services and cost of living scrutiny review boards. Okay, is everybody in agreement with that?
Can it be reviewed in 12 months' time?
Yeah.
I think that would be useful to add that in.
Yeah.
If you feel the need, Jeff.
I'm more than happy. Yeah, do the more that costing of, so we just in a year's time we think, well, what's been happening then on these scrutinies, and it's drifted. And we don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a good point, what Councillor said, but if that's just to review it, is there any mechanism, let's say it didn't function correctly? I'm not saying it won't, but I'm just saying what happens if it doesn't function correctly and we're reviewing it? Do we have any powers to bring it back?
No, we've then got to take it to full council and change the terms of reference of this committee. And I'm sure we'd get support to full council if we had to do that on all sides.
Amendment then, yes.
Right, thank you. So the next meeting, we've got to look at the terms of service. 4.9. So we'll look at the recommend for 4.9. We need to consider it as in what we're going to be doing here. As I said, I'll read it out. Although beyond the scope of this report, it should be noted that the terms of reference of the committee have some overlap with other bodies in the council, such as the Joint Council and Trade Union, Corporate Health and Safety Committee. Its remit for ratifying health and safety policies, it is suggested that the committee considers a review of its terms of reference at a future meeting with the option to make recommendations to council. So we've said that there again, what we've just said. So when we do review, we've kept it in there so we can. Yeah, so it's quite reassuring. Any other comments? Well, the meeting's ended and the next meeting is to be advised. So it could be a few more months, depending what happens on the personnel side. Oh, Councillor Coswell-Wiley.
So meetings are going to be arranged.
You have meetings in your diary. What I'll do is about a month before each committee, I'll get in touch with colleagues and ask, is there anything coming up? And then I'll let you know at that stage if there isn't.
Yeah. So they're still penciled in, but not pending.
It would be good to have advance notice because obviously all our diaries are busy. If we know we haven't got to be here on that particular day, then we can plan with the council work.
You can, yes. Yeah. Thanks, Jack. Yeah, the more the expedient on that and the more time that can be given to the councillors, the better, really.